Hello and welcome to Social Media for Humans, the podcast that empowers you to do social differently. Your host, Alexis Bushnell, and her guests discuss their experience of social media as business owners, users, and ultimately humans, with insights and advice to help you find an effective and ethical strategy that works for you. Grab yourself a drink and join the conversation.
Hello. I am here with wonderful Saba. Do introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to be here. I am Saba Umair, and I'm a mindset coach where I help action takers, space holders to bridge the gap between where they are and where they desire to be in their life, in their business, with the help of subconscious and somatic practices. So, yeah.
That is something that is very needed, I think. Very needed. I know a lot of I run my own membership around social media, and one of the biggest problems people have is just taking action, is just doing the thing to then find out what it's going to do. Is it going to be better for them? Is it going to work for them? Is it not? So I do think taking action is one of those things. And I think it we find it as people generally, I think we have this thing of like, if I buy a load of courses, if I join a load of memberships, if I listen to all the podcasts and watch all the videos, then I'm doing the thing. Because I'm learning, so I'm doing the thing. But actually, it's so often just a way to avoid doing the thing. So I imagine that's something that comes up a lot for you. So tell me sort of how do you see that side of things?
So that is very real. This point that you mentioned. I mean, a point where we say that we are taking action, but indeed that's not true. That's not moving the needle. It's kind of our way to soothe ourselves and tell our brains that things are shifting. We're doing something, but there's something in the outside world that's things are going wrong. We're not the, let's say, the culprits here. We're doing our part. We're scrolling on Instagram. We're doing the research and everything, which brings me to, so I always categorize these things in two different action that we can, two types of action that I call it. So one is empty action and one is potent, meaningful action. Now, what's empty action? Because we have to understand that not every action is going to lead towards our desires or the result, the outcome that we are looking for or looking to achieve. So the empty action are behaviors that seem relevant, but at the end of the day, they don't move the needle, they don't get us anywhere. So for instance, doing lots of research about, let's say you are trying to shed weight, and then you are looking up all the courses that you can join, all the membership, all the gym, everything, and the different diets that you can get into, and then continuously moving in this cycle where doing all the research and then not actually taking action towards it to see which one resonates with you, or to learn and then implement those things. So you're not implementing anything, and that's what I call empty action. Now, the other one is meaningful action, where these are behaviors which help you create results. Now, this action or these actions might not be the results that you desire, but they actually move you towards a step closer towards your goals. So, for instance, reading one page a day, or if there's a habit, you're continuously starting to go to a gym, you're working out, be it for just 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be at initially, a 45-minute workout that will help you, but it's just a 5 minute where you are developing and establishing that habit. So you're actually moving the needle and you're seeing results, that when you go out, you make an effort, you go to the gym, or you join that gym, or you're eating healthy, rather than just thinking and telling yourself or giving yourself this excuse that, see, I'm doing something, but then again, I'm not seeing it a result or anything in my environment, or in my life or in my present situation. So yeah.
Yeah, I find it really interesting as well that you say like it can just be 5 minutes, because this is something that I talk about a lot as well with friends and also with clients, is like you don't have to be doing like the full 100% thing every single day. You can, something that's come up a lot recently, with clients is about engagement, and this idea that like if I can't do an hour or more of engagement on every platform every day, then there's just no point. And I'm like, but you could just do like 5 minutes. That 5 minutes of engagement is good, you know? Doesn't have to be this massive task every single time. It's about, like you say, getting into that habit and just committing to it and doing it regularly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's something that is really, it's kind of it's a good way to avoid taking action and to put stuff off, to go, oh well, I can't do 100%, so I'm just not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But also I do wonder how much like perfectionism ties into that, and that fear of like, well, if I'm not going to do it quote perfectly, then I might as well not bother. So is perfectionism something you see showing up for a lot of people?
Oh, definitely a lot, not only for a lot of people, but for my own self, procrastination and perfectionism. I mean, they go hand in hand for me at least, and a lot of people, a lot of my clients as well. So, what you just talked about. So, when we are in this habit of perfectionism, where consciously or unconsciously we have this mentality, which is like all or nothing mentality. Either I'm going to go in, do it perfectly, and perfectly, what is perfect? We have to define that, perfect according to unrealistic standards that we've put onto ourselves that we will never be able to meet. So this is like, I'm going to go all in, this all or nothing mentality, or I won't do anything at all. So when we are operating from this mindset, what's truly happening is that at one end, we've come up with these unrealistic standards. So when we have to understand, where do these standards are coming from, what's the reason behind it, why do we have to abide by them, so in a way that we can't break free of them, what's the reason behind it. So most of the times when we are moving into, when we are not taking action, there's a lot of self-sabotage that's happening. And with self-sabotage, what truly happens is that we are, one way or the other, this procrastination, perfectionism are like coping mechanisms. So in reality, there's an underlying need that we are fulfilling by sabotaging ourselves, either with all or nothing mentality, that is perfectionism, or procrastination, delaying things, avoiding things, and not doing and looking for that instant gratification in the moment, rather than long-term benefit that our future self could get out of once we do the engagement, once we write that post, once we show up on Instagram and talk about our work, or the new launch that's coming up, whatever that is. So coming back to this all or nothing mentality, one is, I want to do it perfect, defining what perfection is for you, what's perfect, and try bringing it down to something that's tangible, something that you can actually quantify it, like I've said, something that is tangible. That way it will help your brain to understand and comprehend. Okay, let's say for instance, like you said, there's an engagement. I'm gonna do engagement for 5, 7, 10 minutes per day, and if I'm done with those 10 minutes, that's perfect for me. That is my standard. And if I've now today done those 10 minutes, that is completely okay. I don't have to compare myself to this XYZ other person or my competitor, because for them, perfection, or their definition of perfection could be like 1 hour, and they are in different phase. They might be in a different phase in their business. So we have to understand that. Now coming to the nothing mentality, that also comes, like I've said, that also comes for, there's this underlying need to stay safe and be in the comfort zone, that perhaps procrastination, delaying things, avoiding that, brings us that safety. So procrastination or perfectionism, like I've said, they're coping mechanisms. And by engaging in these behaviors, what we're doing is, we are, especially when it comes to procrastination, we are fulfilling an emotional need, or perhaps that we may or may not be aware of. And on the other hand, what truly happens is, we are also avoiding facing and confronting our fears and our emotional, unpleasant emotions. Perhaps if I talk about procrastination, what in my life or in my business, what truly was happening when I wasn't showing up on Instagram. I was, only posting pictures and hiding behind it and worrying about what other people are gonna say. If I put my face out there, they would know. So initially, taking a step back to my story, like I started with doing tarot and numerology readings, and so I was just doing those live pull a card and then getting clients from there and posting on Instagram weekly reads, monthly reads, and all of those things. So it was good. It was initially as a hobby, but then there came a time where I wanted to take it not just a hobby or a side business, but more like doing take it as a business that truly nourishes me, because there were so many ideas that I wanted to go ahead with. So what was happening, I came to a point where I had people, like we connect with stories, we connect with people as humans. So but at my end, it was more like there's this robot somewhere, somebody who is operating my unconventional musings. That's the name of my business. Exactly what I do, very unconventional. So and then what I was telling myself, that because if I put myself out there, other people are gonna come up with they judge me, I can't face the criticism, I don't deserve that criticism, that kind of stories that we have in our brain. And then complaining and blaming other people. And what was truly happening, that I was giving my power away. I was blaming these other people and thinking that I have no other option in this scenario. Whereas when I sat with myself and I realized that what is actually happening is that I am blaming these people, complaining about my circumstances, complaining about my business not moving forward. But what truly I was doing, I was sitting in my comfort zone, feeling safe and familiar. That because that has what been familiar to my brain. And what is familiar to our brain, that behavior, that habit, those thoughts, those actions are repeated over time. And when they're repeated again and again and again, they kind of become automated, and they are there in our subconscious. Like, when we're feeling hungry, if there's a glass of water nearby, we'll pick it up and we'll have a sip or two. So that's kind of unconscious, because we're feeling hungry. We'll not think about it, okay, is there a glass or something of the sorts. So that was what going on. So when I realized that, okay, fine, I was procrastinating on putting myself out there, showing up on Instagram, talking about my business, letting people know what it is that I do. I was fulfilling this need, or of I had this fear of success. So with procrastination, basically, it's either the fear of, in my experience, it's either the fear of failure or the fear of success. Failure as in, I'm gonna do something, it's definitely gonna fail, because that is what happened when I did this other launch in my business, let's say. So that's the situation. With fear of success, what truly happens is, one, perfectionism. Second, that you are very much concerned and scared about the judgments and opinions of other people. And also, you think that another reason, another layer underneath is level of, or lack of, being inadequate. That anything or everything that you're gonna do will or never be enough. So being not being good enough was another layer to it. But then moving through all these patterns with the help of subconscious and somatic practices, with the help of working with people, helping on my or doing work on my own. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how many courses that we take, how many memberships that we join, how many posts that we read, how many articles that we read, we are the one taking action. Nobody can take action on our behalf. Not even our coaches, not even our friends, not even our peers. We are the ones who can only move the needle, because this is our life. We need to be sitting in the driver's seat, and only the driver can drive the car. Nobody sitting beside them or behind them. So yeah, that's where I realized that, okay, fine, this is what is happening. There were a lot of other aspects to it as well, but these were kind of some of the few things that popped up, and they still do. I wouldn't say, so with working with self-sabotage or procrastination, perfection, it's not like once you have generated or cultivated an awareness, and once you have unpacked that and you cleared those behaviors, they will never appear in your life again. That's not true. That's not how our emotions work. That's not how our thoughts work. It's more like, once you have that awareness and you're cultivating that awareness, now you can move in a much more um, in a manner that we know that this is something that you tend to repeat again and again, and this is a cycle or a loop that you need to break in order to see the results that you desire, in order to see the growth that you are seeking, or and reach out for the goals that are there in your life and your business. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what I see a lot, a fear of success is definitely something I have had and probably still have quite a few issues with. And for me, both for myself and also in other people, I see it often confused with fear of failure, because the fear we are having is like people will judge me, and we kind of see that as like, and that is failure if people judge us. And so we can kind of twist it around and be like, no, I'm not afraid of success. Success is amazing. I want to be successful. What I'm scared of is failure, and failure looks like a lot of people seeing and judging me. But actually, that's usually fear of success, because you are in front of more people. The more successful you are, the more people see your content, the more people are engaging with your stuff, the more people who disagree with you come
Yeah.
across.
Yes.
And so, is there, maybe you know, but is there kind of some way, I guess, that people can figure out, is it really fear of failure that they're looking at? Or is it fear of success? Or is it some combination of the two?
So I would say it is usually a combination of the two. Like you can't, pick them apart one way or the other. It's like a cycle. But when in my experience, what I've noticed is when you are so let's say if we take in the context of our business, once you've started it, so now what truly is like what you just said, that I'm gonna the more successful I am, the more scrutinized I will have to be. I'll have to also hide my own, wear this mask, so now more people are going to know about me, then more criticism, more judgment. So there's also an element of people pleasing. That was for me, at least, where I wanted to say something but was holding back and sugarcoating in a way so that it does not affect other people. Whereas what we talked about previously, Alexis, that like the center of attention. So we have to understand we are not the center of attention, or we are not in the center of other people's worlds. When they criticize us, what happens is we take that criticism and internalize it and start coming up with all the stories for why we're not good enough, why we don't deserve this success, for why our business is not growing, and all those narratives and stories. And then what happens is, even though those people have moved forward in their lives because they are the center of their worlds and not us, and we have to come to terms with this realization that it is our lives, and that's where we are the center of attention, not in other people's life. They're not thinking about us. They're not thinking about how we show up 24/7. Maybe they've taken just 5 minutes out of their time, or even 2 3 minutes while scrolling through Instagram and putting that comment, which kind of activated us. Or perhaps, there's another element when it comes to social media. We cannot genuinely 100% know the place that the person was coming from, or the scenario that they were in when they put out those words to us. Or maybe they had what their intention was. What we can do is we can regulate our own nervous system. We can understand if this activated us in some manner, what's the reason behind it, or why am I being too affected with this? Is there something that my brain is bringing my attention towards, or do I need to um, you know look into self-regulation tools so that I can understand that this is completely okay, like kind of moving the riding the spectrum, the full spectrum of your emotions. So I don't mean to say that like if somebody criticizes, you should just shun them. No, that's not possible, and just moving ahead with your life. That's not how things work. We have to allow ourselves to feel whatever feelings that came up at that time. Perhaps, we got angry, we were frustrated, we were overwhelmed because we've been doing so much, taking out so much time of from our busy life, doing the engagement, trying to come up with the perfect launch plan, and doing things perfectly according to our standards. And rather than avoiding our feelings, the best option, although difficult, easier said than done, is to feel through all our emotions and let them be what they truly are. Which brings me to something recently that I've been experimenting also with my clients and my own self, is that developing my vocabulary of emotion. So not every emotion is anger or frustration or overwhelm. There's so much more that is happening. So once we develop that vocabulary, we will be much more able to understand what truly is underneath that anger, what truly is underneath that overwhelm. So usually when it comes to also exhaustion and overwhelm, there's also an element of procrastination or perfectionism that is there. And then it could either be the fear of failure and success. Kind of bringing it a circle moment to what the question that you asked is, there's rejection that comes with fear of failure, and then on the other hand, with perfectionism, that is the fear of success as well, also comes the people pleasing. So if you look at it deep down, they're kind of interconnected. Rejecting other people and then internalizing that rejection, that we're not good enough, this is never going to be enough, this is not for me, I should better look look some other way, or perhaps maybe go and look for a new course or a new membership, or somewhere else that I can soothe myself further, rather than truly looking into it. What is the need that I need to fulfill within me, rather than going out and blaming other people, or allowing our fears to take the lead. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is going to sound like such a, just me bigging myself up now, but I think the best memberships and the best courses and the best educational resources and things like that are the ones that say, this is not going to help you unless you are prepared to think about your own stuff, unless you are recognizing what is going on for you, and you are honest with yourself, and you are working through whatever that stuff is, that this is not going to help you. You need to also be aware of what is going on for you and the things that are coming up and making things difficult for you. Because I feel like a lot of the stuff that is out there is pitched so much as, if you do this, then you will get these results. If you buy this course, you will have this thing happen. And obviously in the small print, it's always like, only if you follow this exact 7-step program or whatever. And there's some kind of out that's like, doesn't work in 100% of circumstances, but if it doesn't work, then it's your fault for some reason. But the actual sort of promotional side of it is so much like, this is the program that will fix your whatever problem it is. And it kind of, that marketing in itself enables people to go, okay, it's not, I don't need to look at my stuff, I just need this new program. I just need these steps. I just need to do this thing, and then everything will fall into place. And especially with social media, this is so frustrating to me, because social media is A, always changing, and B, it really depends on your audience and your business and a million other different things. So it's really kind of a prime place for like promoting stuff that is varied, and like, you need to figure out your own stuff. And yet so much of the stuff that is out there and available is like, follow these steps, do this thing, and boom, you will be famous on social media. So I guess that's coming around to a question about, how can we kind of be aware of whether we actually need that course, or whether what we're doing is trying to avoid those feelings, those things that are coming up for us, by buying a new course so that we can kind of outsource that validation and things like that.
For this, what my suggestion would be is the concept of present self and future self. Let's say that you're in a point in your business where you think that a certain membership, a certain training, or a certain course would help you to move forward, which is okay. Like it's amazing to be a lifelong learner, lifelong student. There's nothing wrong with that. But all these courses, membership, even signing up for coaches, be it whatever that is, one-on-one session, 6-month containers, 3-month containers, group coaching programs, everything is perfect. I'm not against them. I just love them. But if you're not going to implement what you've learned, or make effort around it, or take action to what the knowledge or information that you've learned, you are not gonna reach your goals. That's for sure. Because signing up for a course does not ensure 10K months, 5K months, 100K business, or whatever the standards in our industry is, or what we see on Instagram when we sign up, especially for the business courses and stuff like that. They can only help us generate awareness, and cultivate what is it that's going on. So we have to understand that we need to take into account the mindset work of what is truly going on, and also the strategic part, and bringing those two pieces together and then moving forward. So coming back to the present concept of present self and future self, so especially when it comes to procrastination. So when we are setting goals, let's say we have to create content, and we are, for the future. So we set goals for our future self, where it is very easy for our brain to comprehend. Of when we think about the future self, let's say this quarter only, or a year from now, where I have a course that I want to launch, so I'm gonna create this much content around it. And when I think about my future self, this is how I see them. This is what behaviors that they are taking, or actions that they are taking. And then this is XYZ, what is happening. And they're posting on Instagram, they're talking about they're creating that gentle space where they can talk about their new program or stuff like that. So that is amazing. That is kind of a way where we can project it out onto our future self. And also understanding that our future self thrives on long-term gain. We can even visualize the steps that we are taking. Okay, this is where our future self is. So let's say, signing up 15 clients, and we're seeing that happening. And how did that happen? We were creating content, and then bringing it down to step by step and little chunks towards our present self. Because our present self is where the magic truly happens, and it is only in our present self that we can take action. Our future self can't take action. Our future self, we can use it to set goals, and take inspiration, feel motivated, and see that embody our future self in our present self. That's only going to happen in the present self. Now, the research has also shown that a present self looks for instant gratification. So when there's a task, let's say there is content that we have to create, or email we have to write for our email list for next week, and we see that we have 3-4 days until the email that needs to go out, and we start procrastinating or delaying it. We'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it, or let me just scroll through Instagram, or just do some research, like coming back to that empty action and delaying things. And what is we are getting out of it by procrastinating and not taking action, and kind of even taking action, but that's empty. It kind of tells us, that safety and that familiarity, and that sense of that we are safe. There's nothing, there's no stress there here right now, a kind of a coping mechanism. So we that instant gratification is what our brain was like, yeah, this is what I need, and this is what our present self is looking for. So, but as the day go by, more it stresses more that we have to take action, and then the deadline comes by, so the newsletter has to go out, let's say in a couple of hours or in a day or two, and that's where we're doing our best, we're writing it out, and we're stressing ourselves, we're burdening ourselves, even to a point where we are beating ourselves up, we're being too hard onto ourselves, and then um, uh, telling our present self that even though that future self is now kind of becoming our present self, because that email needs to go out today, like let's say in 2 3 hours. So and that kind of, there's no choice, and sometimes what we do is we even step over it, and then we're like, I didn't have time, I had to I had client calls today, so I can't tick off this task for some reason. And then that is where we start to go down the path of negative thought loop, where we're criticizing ourselves, we're saying, telling ourselves this is not the thing, and down that path and spiraling into all those negative thoughts, and feeling our those not even sometimes allowing ourselves or numbing out with the help of perhaps any other maybe scrolling through unnecessarily through social media, or Netflixing, and just telling ourselves, because we've been too hard on ourselves, we've been burdening ourselves, and we've come to a point where we're exhausted, our future present self is like, this is too much, I can't handle it, and then going down this path where we are numbing ourselves for whatever reason. And although underneath, when we let's say we were sitting with ourselves or with the help of a professional, what we truly can uncover is the fears, the need. Perhaps there was a fear that if you sent out this email, people are gonna know that your sales page wasn't ready. So in order to avoid that, what you did is you sabotaged and didn't send out that email, and then tell yourself, just because that email wasn't perfect, and you didn't want your clients to see yourself as being imperfect. And just knowing that mistakes and failures and imperfections are part of the journey, only through taking action, and action that is meaningful, you can understand what works for you and what did not work for you. And that brings me back to where we started, which is that no course, no membership, nothing is going to help you create results it, until and unless you take action on whatever steps that you've learned, whatever. I'm not talking about the content, whether you should go ahead with a certain membership or not, or stuff. Just a general where we are looking for, like you said, validation outside of yourself. So the first step is, once you have generated that awareness, also coming back to ourselves, and once when our present self, even though our present self looks for instant gratification, what we can do on the flip side is that we had to send out that email, even writing like a couple of lines, perhaps a short paragraph. And once we have written that, you can celebrate yourself and help yourself with the gratification, perhaps sitting with a nice cup of coffee, or saying out, appreciating yourself, that, whoa, I'm so proud of you, Saba, that you, even though you couldn't write the whole email, that is completely okay. You still have time, you can do it. So, kind of along with self-awareness, cultivating that compassion, that even though XYZ happened that was surprising, and you were not looking that those there was something else other than your business, something happened in your personal life that you weren't able to write more than 3 4 lines, and that is completely okay, rather than not allowing yourself to feel your emotions, and then at the end, by the end of that task, just criticizing yourself. So kind of generating that awareness, and then being giving yourself the space that it is okay even if you make mistakes, and even if that sales page wasn't perfect, it is completely okay. There's even if somebody emails you back and tells you that there was a spelling mistake, or the text wasn't aligned properly, you can take that as feedback, and then it was helpful for you to maybe on your own you weren't able to do it. So those kind of feedback can be helpful to you. Another thing that I want to mention, which was something just recently, I was working with a client, and we were working around the fear of success. And then, like what I said previously, to define what success for you is, you know, what is success for you, and bring it down when it comes to, especially to your business, bring it down to something tangible. let's say there is your quarterly goal, you set quarterly goals, and and there is a certain number that you want to achieve in your business, and then bringing it back to how you can chunk it down to single your daily habit that we create, that those small parts can compound over time. So I asked this client as homework for until their next call. So I asked them, like, just think about it every day, every step that you take, define what success was for you today. And then just the call that I had 2 days back, which was after the previous call, they were the feedback they gave me was that even though the goal seems too big, and when I look, it kind of overwhelms me, but doing this daily small step, that what was success for me today, perhaps sending out that email, or stepping out of the home and going out to this center and talking with them about what options do they have if I want to conduct a workshop. So on XYZ, that was success for me. Something that you can help not only yourself but your brain to understand that this is what success is and this is what perfect for me is right now. Although perfection is illusion, but because we've been so trained and we've wired our brain in a way that perfect, it should be perfect, it should be perfect. Untangle that in this manner and move away from it. It's not easy, let me just put it. I struggle with it a lot with even though I have so much awareness around it. I've written so much about it and stuff like that. I work with clients around it, everything. But if I'm being honest, it is still very difficult. But what generating awareness, and even sometimes, even though I have this awareness, but sometimes there are days where I know that something needs to be done, but I'm procrastinating on it. But understanding that, okay, fine, this is what is happening. I don't want to, let's say there was a post that I wanted to post or an email that I wanted to send out, which reminds me that there was an email that I had to send out today, but I didn't do that. Because real life example, which was because I was busy with my personal life yesterday, and because of, like I said, because of Ramadan, my routine has shifted, and it's just the first week, so I'm going to go easy on myself. And I actually forgot that I had to send it. I had to schedule an email. I forgot to actually schedule. I had written it out, but it's completely okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, right after this call ends, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit with myself, because I definitely know once I get onto it, there's um, so many thoughts are going to pop up, but I'll sit with those thoughts. But let's say there was something much more extreme where I had to send I had there was something a client needs from me, and but I forgot to, let's say, reply them back in due time in the office hours that were mentioned in our arrangement whatsoever. And I'm feeling, oh my god, I've done something wrong, this is not how the way to do your business, something. I let those feelings pass. Initially, when I didn't have that awareness, what happened was, I go down that. I sometimes still do go down that path of self-criticism. But right now, much that I do have the awareness, what we can do is we can let and allow ourselves to allow those feelings to pass through us. And later on, when we feel we're a much more a calm and clear space, we can reflect back and see what led to this behavior, what activated it, why we were going down this path, what thoughts were coming up. And even those thoughts were coming up, were they true? What's the evidence behind it? And do I want to do I want to break this pattern, or do I want to continue with it because somehow it fulfills some one or the other need? And what that need is, what are other ways, much more helpful ways, that I can fulfill that need, instead of allowing myself to distract myself and procrastinate on things that need my attention or that can help me move forward in my business. So yeah.
Yeah. Can you then sort of explain maybe the tools that you're using that help you to allow those feelings to just flow through and to check in with yourself and to give yourself that compassion?
Okay. So one of my most favorite tools is EFT. It is so easy, it is so simple that can help you move through your emotions and then help you come to a place where you're feeling much more clearer and calmer. EFT, full form, emotional freedom technique, which is it is based on Chinese meridian system, and it is a stress reduction tool. EFT is something that you can do at any time, whether you are in bed, whether you are, in a social setting, because we tap on different meridian points on our body. Or how I like to use is, once I've journaled, or journaling is another thing that I use to help calm down my nervous system. Sometimes because there's something that needs to come out, and I would either, or one is journaling, like writing things out, how is it that I'm feeling, or sometimes what I do is I just sit with myself. I gently just close my eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, and then say out loud to whatever is coming out, without any filter, because I'm sitting alone, nobody can hear me, that's only myself. And so just say it out loud. So, that also helps you, kind of when you share something with somebody, it helps you feel, oh, I'm feeling lighter. So that's another thing. Then with EFT, tapping on different meridian points on our body and saying out loud whatever it is that's going on. And when we are tapping, there's something else that truly comes out. So I like to mix it with journaling as well. So sometimes it's like, I've journaled it, and then I look what has come up, and then I tap out those feelings in order to come to a place where I'm feeling much more calmer, where I'm in a space that I'm able to take a decision that will help me actually move the needle and not go down where I started. So or what I'm going to do is, once I've journaled anything out and I was in that moment, that is okay. I'm not in a mood to, I'm just feeling too heavy, or perhaps whatever it's, I don't have the time. So maybe in the next day or a week after, I will come back to it, and I'll go through, quickly skim through what I wrote, and I'll see perhaps one or two things that might have come up. So I'll sit with that. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes what something else that I do is breath work. Breath work is amazing, amazing, brilliant, where you just have to go with the flow, be with your body, be with your breath, no talking, nothing. You don't have to, come up with so many things, something that you can do on your own easily, and cry like anything and release like anything. So, and after, towards the end, there's a tap and breathe that I like to do it. Like, again, EFT, because I say EFT a lot, because EFT, when it comes to subconscious and somatic practices, EFT has been my utmost favorite, because it has been one of the first tools that I learned and got my training in. So anything happens, or anyone, if I'm even talking to my clients, or we're talking in between clients, or if it's a messaging support that they're looking for, so I'm gonna, I also teach them, so that this is the very easy tool that they can learn on their own and tap whatever shit or emotions that they're uncomfortable, unpleasant emotions that are coming up, instead of suppressing them or avoiding them. Because even if we numb them, we avoid them, we suppress them, it's not that they're we've put a lid and they're never gonna come out. They will definitely gonna come out, especially in moments where you wouldn't want them to show up. And in order to avoid that, it is better to allow yourself to move through them on your own, with the help of a coach, a professional, a therapist, whatever your circumstances are. So yeah, if you can't, I would like to, the last option, basically my option is, if I'm unable to move through it on my own, I'll reach out for support. Know that asking for help is such a big thing. that Receiving support is a huge thing. There's so much magic in it, and there's so much that we can do on our own. When we sign up for these courses, even when we sign up for these membership, what we're looking for is support, that the other person, the other party can give us, a perspective that they can give us, that we on our own are not able to unlock or unpack. So receiving help, be it in the form of therapy, or when it comes to your business, reaching out for a coach, or signing up for courses, it is amazing. It is amazing. But at the end of the day, yet again, taking action is what moves the needle. It what helps you get results. So you're the one who needs to be in the driver's seat, and you will always be in the driver's seat of your life, and deciding which path to go down. Even if you decide to take action or not, you decide to implement what you've learned, you decide to make an effort and see if things work out for you, or there might be another way out from, creating the business that you desire. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you're so right when you say, like, if you avoid those feelings and those situations and things, it does come out in other ways when you really don't want them to. And I think something that I have noticed myself and that I know I've spoken to other people about is that, like, early in my business, I did a fabulous stand-up job of, like, squishing the difficult things down and avoiding them. And do you know what? It probably worked for, like, the first phase of my business, and I was like, I can pretend this is not a thing, just get on it, do the business thing, let's go. And then as my business sort of leveled up, all of those things that I had squished had, like, extra stuff added to them. And I think this is something that because when we look at sort of quote successful people who we are admiring, they're further on in their business, we look at them and we think, you have it all sorted. There is no problem like in your life. You are clearly just amazing at everything and nothing is difficult for you. And in reality, every time you sort of level up in your business, you grow, you start doing new things, more stuff comes up that you have to deal with because you're in a new situation. Maybe when you first started, you weren't doing lives, you definitely weren't doing sort of podcast interviews, you weren't on stage speaking, you weren't doing these different things. And in the same way that as we add new tools and systems and things to our business, we have to learn how to use this new invoicing software or whatever. You have to learn to deal with all these new brain things that come up as you go through your business. I don't think there is ever a point that you get to where you go, aha, I have achieved business success and I am totally on top of all these brain gremlins.
Yeah, yeah. That never happens. That never happens. Like I say, and I've noticed and I've seen in my own business, the more I up leveled in my business, same thing happened with my fears. They up leveled equally with me. It's not like the fear of success that was there initially 2 years back. It is still there. It has changed its shape and form. So initially it was one-on-one clients. And then it has now come to the group or the trainings that I do, or perhaps, the podcast, or, reaching out to one to many people. So it's like, okay, fine. It's going to be one person that I'm going to be, sharing my knowledge and the way that I, show up in my business or stuff like that. So those things also up level and they change shape. Now, that does not mean, or I don't mean to kind of scare you, oh my God, she mean to say that the fears are always going to be there. So what's the point of even, unpacking them? No, the more that you understand, the less you spend time dwelling upon it, or feeling sorry for yourself, or and you being in that victim mindset. Oh, things not working, I can't do it. But rather, what you start doing is you're like, okay, fine. This is the reality of life. This is the reality of me as a human. That I have to move past it, and this is something that's coming up. Even though this is how I might be feeling, but I know that based on my previous experiences, I can move past it, and this is not going to stop me or dictate me what I should not be doing in my business, or how, or what is it that the softwares or coaching or whatever it is that I want to do, maybe trainings or starting a membership or whatever it is, that new thing that you want to go after. So, like, even after, like what we talked about before getting on this call, that even though there's so much work that I've done, I know my stuff, like stuff like that, but getting on this call, to what I shared, that I'm still feeling a little bit nervous, but I'm excited for this this podcast. So let's say nervousness and excitement can coexist, and that is completely okay. That is okay. So I've come to terms with that, rather than, oh no, I'm not feeling nervous, oh no, this has to go the wrong way, or it shouldn't be working out because I'm feeling nervous, or sending out, if I would have if this would have been Saba 2 years back, I probably would have cancelled this podcast, this interview, because of this nervousness, or this, I can't do it. What if I don't? What if they ask a question, and I'm unable to answer it, or I don't have anything, or all those things. So it's part of our journey. So rather than going down the path of those negative self-talk, we should also experiment and sometimes try going down the path of self-talk, where we are appreciating ourselves, where we are holding space for ourselves, where we are showing love towards ourselves, the care and love and appreciation that we put out for people that we love in our sphere, people that we love in our world. And one more thing that I want to mention here is, when you're in a place where you are in an introspective reflection mode to what's happening in your life, and things not moving, and you're feeling in that victim mindset, in a funk, and you're ready to step out of it. If you are struggling to answer questions, like because this has been a pattern, and you feel like you're not good enough, or you don't deserve to have a successful business for whatever reason, based on your previous experiences, what you can do is, in order to dissociate, just visualize a friend, a loved one, a peer of yours, whom you deeply appreciate and care and love them, and ask this question, that if they were in your shoes, where they were feeling that they do not deserve a successful business, what words would you tell them? you know just what is it, what is it that you're going to tell them? How is it that you're going to respond to them? And then write that out, or perhaps if you're someone who likes to say things out loud, or record it in your the voice recorder, and then once you've recorded it, and then listen to it again, to what is it that you're saying, and try practicing those things. Um, and this brings to affirmations, which you know it affirmations have kind of this through time, what I've noticed is become a connotation, unpleasant, negative connotation, where people, even though things that don't resonate with them, they feel like saying out things to yourself again and again in front of the mirror is how you're going to rewire, program your brain. That's not true. It's more like affirmations are like reframes. It doesn't always have to be something that starts with I am, or I am this, I am that. For some it might work, for some people it does not work, and in my experience, it doesn't work for a lot of people, because there's so much underneath that needs their attention before they get to this point where this sentence, this mantra works for them. So in that situation, what you can do is, for instance, you feel like I can't write this email, I can't write this post. What is the reframed thought that you can come up with? Is something that is much more gentle. Even though I think that this might be difficult for me, I'm holding space for myself, and I'm going to make an effort to write at least 2-3 lines today. So that was gentle, but at the same time something that your mind was able to grasp and hold on to, rather than completely your subconscious rejecting, nope, not happening, never happened, can't be. Because our subconscious is resistant to change, because change is something that has not been familiar, that is out of our comfort zone, and something that is out of our comfort zone, our brain is going to reject, even though that change is what you desire, that change is what is going to bring about the growth that you desire, the expansion that you desire in your business. So slowly, very gently, taking yourself through all the steps. And like, healing is not linear. It's not like you've stepped up one ladder and then that's the second ladder. Sometimes you're going to go onto the fourth step and then come down to the zero step again, in situations. It's not like linear, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on to the goal that you're seeking. Even how it happens when we set goals, sometimes it's like there's a there you're looking for only 3 clients, and then something happens, or you go viral, or whatever, something of the sorts, and there's an influx of clients all of a sudden. So it wasn't like 1 client, 2 client, 3 client, 4, and it's like so many, your business is growing, because At one end, you've been doing all the mindset work, and you've been understanding how your brain works, how your body works. You've been showing yourself compassion and love that you desire. And on the other hand, because you've taken this membership, and you're understanding the strategic part of it as well, so you're taking those things along, and something along the lane, something clicked, and things started to work out in your favor. And then, because you up leveled, that fear of success, or perhaps the fear of failure, because you're perhaps starting a new course or something, it will always be there for you. It's not like a windscreen, once you clean it out, and it's not gonna appear, it's gone, oof, thank God. No, never gonna happen. It will always be there. You have to come to terms with your fears, with your doubts, with your insecurities and your patterns. The more awareness that you have, the more mindfully you can take action towards your goals, your dreams, and towards creating a successful business. And remembering that success is different for every person. Start with defining what success to you is right now. Now, success doesn't always have to be tangible, but when I say tangible, it can help your brain to comprehend what that is. But it can only be, the freedom of time and space, that, like 4 hour week, or for whatever that is for you. So just gently starting with one point, and as you comprehend that thing, then challenging yourself a little bit more, that might be a little bit stretch for your brain, but then at the other end, it does not kind of lead down the path of stress and unnecessary perfection, and putting those unrealistic standards. So
Yeah, and I do think it's important to remember as well that as we level up in our business and go through these things, we're not starting from scratch. So as if you choose to look at what is difficult for you and build that awareness as you go, when you level up, you then find that you have some experience and you have some tools that you can then use to make it less difficult to deal with the next time. So it does get easier to sort of manage those things, even if as you level up, stuff still keeps coming up. And I think that's why it's so important that we work on stuff when it happens, rather than my specific method of like, I'm just gonna put this to the side and do stuff anyway, and then leveling up and being like, oh no, now I have to deal with all of that and all the new stuff. Fabulous.
yeah. I can very much resonate with that, because that's what I did as well initially. That putting it aside, letting it pile up, and thinking that I've put the best lock that's there onto that box, but it started showing up, and at a point where I did not want that box to open up, but at the end had to deal with it, come to terms with it, and let it be. Yeah, okay, be gentle. That this is it. That was also part of my experience, knowing that didn't work, and it will never work, and it won't work in the future as well. So rather just deal with it. If not today, then tomorrow, week after, a month after, but not years after, because that's truly difficult and not that easy.
Yeah, definitely. This has been super interesting. I have loved chatting to you. If people have listened to this chat and are like, okay, I'm in, I'm ready to deal with my own stuff, where can they find you?
It was amazing and lovely talking to you. I had so much fun, and also with the fun thing that just happened. Anyway, so you can find me on Instagram by the name of My Unconventional Musings. You can find me on my website by same name, My Unconventional Musings. I'm everywhere by the name of My Unconventional Musings. So yeah.
Very good. I will, of course, put all the links in the show notes so people can come and find you really easily. And thank you again for being here. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely. Thank you.
If you want more regular reminders to find your own way to use social media, follow Alexis on your social platform of choice. All the links will be in the show notes. Until next time, be a human.